Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue 1 comic books and I deem them worthy or not worthy. Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, guys, you came to the right place, so why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button. Now, this week, there wasn't that many new number ones, so I took it in 2 additional comic books to stick them in this video. What are they? You'll soon find out. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. SpiderPunk Arms Race Issue 1. This is a 40-page comic for $5. This one is done by Cody Ziegler and the art is done by Justin Mason. This is a follow-up from the first volume that was done maybe a year ago. I don't know. It just, I seem to lose track of time when it comes to these comic books, right? The artwork in this comic has like its own distinct feel, right? It's like, it's not quite like Across the Spider-Verse. It's not SpiderMan, but it definitely has this, like I said, distinct feel. This 2-page spread is probably the best artwork in the actual comic book itself. The characters look a little bit rugged. You can tell it's in this different world. We get to see Justin Hammer in this comic. We wind up getting to see like Otto Octavius in this comic book as well. Plus, there's some other characters that I'll mention here in a second. So the artwork definitely had its distinct feel. Also, the letterer has fun like highlighting some key words in there that highlights them red and stuff like that, so that was kind of cool. And some of the characters that you can expect in this one is SpiderPunk, which is Hobie Brown, Captain Anarchy, the Daredevil, Matea Murdock. There's Dr. Octopus in this world, Justin Hammer, like I said, Shuri's in this one. So there's a lot of different characters in this book, and what's going on in here is that they're trying to like rebuild their city, right, with the help of Black Panther and Shuri and everybody else. Well, what happens in here is you see Justin Hammer makes his appearance, and he's using like Norman Osborn's past technology and splicing it together to make these new was it like Spider Slayer Sentinels or something like that? What's it called in here? Spidey slaying Sentinels. So he tries to pitch this to the corporates and it doesn't quite work and whatnot. And then we wind up getting to see the robot in action trying to stop, Spidey and his amazing friends, if you say there, and terrorizing the city and all that kinds of stuff. And then Dr. Octopus wants to take the technology in his hands and make it superior. This book is worthy. At first when I was reading it, I'm like, man, this is not that great. But as I got to digest the issue and think about it a little bit more, I like how it does go to a different world and it has its own distinct feel to it. And you still get to see some of the characters that you are familiar with, right? And so I think this is definitely worthy of an issue 2. Was this the best book I've ever read? No, not even close, right? But it was fun, it was entertaining, and I'm curious to see what is gonna, become of this series going forward. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna give this one a B-. We'll see where it goes. What If Venom? This is issue 1. Now, when it comes to this comic book, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually kind of excited about this one because this is like what if She-Hulk became the Venom symbiote. This is a 28-page comic for $5. The comic here is written by Jeremy Holt. The art is done by Jesus Harvez, and the artwork is okay, but it's not spectacular. I felt maybe the colors were a little bit too dark, and I understand why, because it is the Venom character. But I thought a title like this could have really taken it to the next level. I do like the concept of the She-Hulk symbiote. I thought she did look good. It is what it is. It was okay, but I thought it could have been better. This is a pretty decent 2-page spread. Okay, so what did this book have to offer? Well, obviously we all know the origin of how Eddie Brock became, Venom, right? And in this comic, we wind up seeing Jennifer Walters back in the day overworked, she's tired, she's not appreciated, and she happens to be in Hell's Kitchen, and Eddie Brock happens to be in that church, and he's about to commit suicide, okay? And Jennifer Walters just happens to be there, and all of a sudden, you know, takes the gun from Eddie Brock, and we see the symbiote kind of approach its way towards Eddie Brock, and Eddie freaks out as it's possessing Jennifer Walters instead of Eddie Brock himself. He runs away, and the symbiote calls him a coward. And from that point on, you wind up seeing Jennifer Walters become that symbiote She-Hulk, okay? And it's everything that you knew from, like, how Spider-Man accepted the symbiote at first. It, like, Jennifer falls asleep, it does all the work for her, stuff like that. There's all this violence on the streets, and then conveniently, I don't know why, but we wind up seeing Sabretooth make his way into the pages of this book. It's just because, right? Because we want to introduce Wolverine. And whenever there's Sabretooth, Wolverine makes an appearance. So that's how it was. This book is not worthy. I would have loved to seen a different type of concept here once Jennifer Walters did possess that symbiote. There could have been a much better story. The thing about What If comic books is it's obviously, you know, what if this happened? And the story was actually really, really intriguing and really good, and it caught your attention. And this had real good potential, but it just everything just felt so convenient, you know. It's just like, oh, I'm Jennifer Walters, I'm in the church, and oh, look, Sabretooth comes. Like, after she became this symbiote, there's no real story going forward, right? And it's kind of bland, it's kind of dull, nothing really exciting here that happened. So I'm gonna give this one a C-, a wasted potential of a comic book for sure. The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 44, the conclusion to the gang war. I didn't like Dark Web, and I thought that accomplished absolutely nothing. And in the beginning of this event, it seemed like it had strong potential. Madam Mask took over Hammerhead, beat him in the head with a freaking adamantium pipe, and, you know, you wind up seeing freaking Tombstone getting shot, and he's in the hospital. Randy is in the freaking hospital, and it starts off really good. There is a reason why the gang war is happening. And in this comic book, we see the big fight that's happening in Central Park. It was like a middle school fight. It's like,
I'll meet you at 8 o'clock, and we're gonna fight. And if I win, I'm gonna win your Twinkies, and you can't bully me anymore.
it's kind of what happens in this comic. You wind up seeing a whole bunch of fighting going on in here between all the different factions, Madam Mask, Tombstone. At the end of the last issue, you wind up seeing Tombstone, like, break one of Beetle's, like, flying wings or whatever, and it just seems like she's gone, and Tombstone made some kind of deal with her not to come back. And while the whole fight is happening, we get to see the gang members fall one by one, and people lose their advantage, and you wind up seeing random stupid cameos by freaking Jackpot and Spider-Boy and Rabbles in this comic book as well, where she looks like some like Iron Man knockoff. Like, what the hell is that? The artwork is so ridiculously dumb in this comic book. It's ridiculous. All close-ups of faces once again, right? We wind up getting to see what we expected, Randy to recover in the hospital. We wind up seeing the fight it ends just as quickly as it began, and of course the winner of the gang war is freaking Tombstone. This event is not worthy. It is absolutely not worthy. This is garbage. I cannot believe it. This is a so forgettable event in a whatever event where it doesn't affect the Marvel universe at all. The only thing that happened out of this, and it took us how many issues, right, was that the superhero act that Kingpin put in, it's revoked, it's done. It doesn't happen anymore, right? So now you can be a superhero again anywhere. And that's the only thing it's accomplished. And Tombstone is still the leader. Beetle is gone. it didn't accomplish anything. It's absolute nonsense how we have such a bad Spider-Man comic book. I cannot believe it. This was so pointless. So freaking pointless. Like, this is your outcome. Like, last page right here, man. Gang war. Tombstone. If Tombstone died, there would have been freaking ramifications here. It would have made it a true reason for Beetle to take over her father's legacy. I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine if Randy died, because he really is kind of a throwaway character. There's no loss here. Nothing whatsoever. Absolute garbage in my opinion here. It's so sad that this comic has fallen so far down, and yet we have this Ultimate Spider-Man on the way it should be freaking written. This book is an F. This event is an F. This has gone down, I'll say it again, I've said it multiple times, as the worst run in Amazing Spider-Man history. It can't get any worse than this. Can it? Green Arrow. This is issue 9. Holy crap, I did not see this book coming in the direction that it's going. This is a 32-page comic for $4. Joshua Williamson's the writer here. The art is done by Sean and I'm not even going to say it. The artwork's really good. Check out that page where Ollie's falling from a plane, or I should say like a spaceship these days, or some kind of stealth bomber. There's a lot of setup that's going on in this comic of what is to come when it comes to these events that's happening. And Amanda Waller is behind it all. And this was a very interesting comic book. Now, there's going to be a pretty big spoiler at the end of this comic, which I did not see coming at all. So I'm just letting you guys know that. Here's a little bit more of Amanda Waller artwork. And I liked Peacemaker in here and Peace Wrecker. They were kind of cool. The beginning of this comic opens up with a nice, like, description of what the Hall of Justice was, right? How they opened it up for the public to see where the superheroes live and how things go down, and just the history of the superheroes. And now, just like that, it's been taken over by Amanda Waller. She's like bringing it down. They're taking it over. They're using it as their base of operations. And they have all the tech that they need, right? And it's crazy what they found out that's inside this Hall of Justice, right? Of what, like, this cell that Batman had, like all these different things that Superman had. And it was just quite interesting learning all the little tidbits of the Hall of Justice. Really, really good in my eyes. Then Oliver Queen makes this thing of trying to sneak in, right? And try to find out where Red Arrow is actually at. And he gets caught by Amanda Waller, and she fucking, excuse the F word, but she gives him this ultimatum like, okay, listen, I'll give you anything that you want, but we're going to bring back the whole Heroes in Crisis thing, and you're going to find the freaking mask, the confessional mask, or whatever it is. And I'm like, what? Are we kidding? Are we seriously doing that? I couldn't believe it. I cannot believe that we're going back to the Sanctuary, which I thought was destroyed and done with and not even a thought in the DC Universe anymore, and we're going to retrieve that? Like, what? This is the worst event ever, dude. I could not stand that event. So weird, but you know what? It's okay because I'm like intrigued where they're going to go with all that, right? I am just so blown away by that whole thing, right? Even though I didn't like Heroes in Crisis, it's an interesting concept, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I like Green Arrow books, so this book is worthy for me. I am so curious to hear in the comments section below what you guys thought of the ending of this story, if you read it already, and are you going to continue it, or are you going to drop it because you hated Heroes in Crisis so much? But it'll be interesting direction, man. And again, I'm just happy that Oliver Queen has a book. That's all I can say about that. And I think at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a B+. I really enjoyed it. It just threw me for a loop at the end. I think you guys are going to be surprised at this next one. The Savage Sword of Conan, issue 1. How many times have I said I'm not a Conan fan, right? But it was a new #1. I decided to pick it up. I knew it was an oversized book. It's more like the old school Conan magazines that were out back in the day. And I actually had a couple of them. I have no idea what happened to them. This is an 80-page comic for $7. Like, you can't go wrong with that. Now, it is like a magazine style. You know, there's no color, so if you're expecting color in this comic or magazine, you're not going to get it. But the artwork is phenomenal in this book. Like, the action scenes look cool. There's like a part in this comic where they're like fighting this big freaking dinosaur. Like, look at that. That's just insane. Now, I'm not gonna lie, with the black and white, sometimes it kind of gets a little muddy or it blends into a panel here and there. It kind of reminds me of me reading a little bit of like Berserk or something like that when I was reading this thing. But the way this comic was structured and oversized and just the colored stuff and being not familiar too much with Conan, I felt like I was just reading something completely different and I was new to it and I was excited about it while reading it. This was a very interesting story about Conan being a general of this prince, at least this main story anyway, and they're trying to get back to what they say is this place where it's full of gold. And Conan winds up getting betrayed so many times in this comic book. It's like, it's like once and then twice and then 3 times. And it was quite interesting. And really, at the end of the day, what the prince wanted was to have like his girlfriend back again along by his side. And he fooled his army and Conan and everybody else that there was gold and there was no gold. And they left them for dead in the comic. But I mean, again, this was absolutely awesome. And I was just taken aback by it. I thought it was so good. This book is definitely worthy of the price, the 80 pages. Now, there is a backup story in this comic, which is pretty entertaining as well. The only downfall of this comic is that I think there's only 2 issues of this, right? I looked for future issues. It showed one more, and then there wasn't one after that. So that would be kind of disappointing, but I can see myself enjoying Conan through this. And, it is a little lengthy, so you got to give yourself some time to actually read it. You can't, go through it in like 2 minutes. Just give yourself the time to digest it. And like I said, the art can kind of blend in with the black and whites, but besides that, this story was awesome, and I'm going to give this one an A-. It really surprised me. So there you have it, webheads. There are the books that I deemed worthy or not worthy for the day. I want to know all your comments down below on what you thought was really good. And if you have any suggestions on new #1s, let me know also in the comments. As always, guys, I'm going to leave you more content right here. This is my entire comic book haul video. And as always, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read those comics. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you real soon. Bye.